Hey homeschool friends, welcome to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to be doing a homeschool update. This is the first update I've done this year for the 2023-2024 school year. We have been homeschooling for about 5 weeks now. We started end of July, so this is kind of my August update. I have lots to update you on. It's been really good, so many good things. And so in these videos, I tend to chat through kind of a bit of a life update as well as family subjects and individual subjects for all of my kids, which this year I have a 4th grader, a 3rd grader, and twin kindergartners. So lots to chat about. These videos tend to go a little long, but hopefully you'll enjoy it and stick with me for this entire update. There's lots of things to report. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, welcome back if you've been coming for a while. So like I said, lots to update you on. This year I think I might just shake it up a bit and start out these videos with 3 key things that happened in the month of August. And so, first thing to note is we had a lot more fun than previous years. This was one of my goals. I wanted to do more fun things. We really enjoyed studying Vikings. We've done almost all our science experiments. We're going to be going to the aquarium to kind of celebrate finishing one of our books. We've started up tea time, treat time. You guys, it's just been really fun. So fun has improved. And then the number 2 is we read a ton of read alouds. You can see from my thumbnail, I held up a ton of books. Not all of them did we read during school. Some of these were our extra read alouds, which I wasn't sure if we would have any of those this year, but so far we have, and we've read some extra good books at night. So lots of reading done this month. And then Brave Writer. I'll get into it. What we are doing there. I know I've been kind of talking a bit about it because I haven't wanted to fully commit myself to it. So you'll see. Wait until I talk about my bigger kids and how I'm using Brave Writer. I'm really excited, you guys. It's what I'm looking for. So let's hop in. We'll start with life update. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I have been struggling probably this past year with an autoimmune disorder. I was diagnosed last Christmas. I was finally approved for an infusion, which really targets this type of disorder. And so I had 2 rounds of that kind of midsummer, end of June, early July. It was awful. It felt crappy, but I think it's helping. For those of you who are praying types, pray that it works because it was awful, but I think it's going to work and that would really help out. But I'm also trying to continue to improve kind of just my general health through eating and stress relief and all the things, which I've talked about. So nothing really new there. Otherwise, I feel like I am getting into the fall vibes. I don't know about you guys. I just love this time of year. It's not quite even there. It's still very hot, but I'm anticipating fall, and so I'm very excited. So that's life. Life is good. It's great. I'm enjoying our homeschool, and hopefully I'll get my health under control. But anyway, moving to family subjects. So this is the first year that I am balancing 2 Sonlight HBLs and 2 Sonlight Sciences. I know, it sounds crazy, but so far so good. It's really working. I've already had the practice with using Sonlight and making it work for my family, so adding on the kindergartners and giving them their own HBL and their own science is working so far. Now, I'm not sure if it will totally always work, but the thing is, there's just less reading in those programs, so it really does kind of balance. So let me just kind of hop in. We'll start with HBL for both. We'll just do both. So I'm doing HBL-C with my big kids. So some big observations. 1, there's more reading in HBL-C than HBL-B, especially in the history and the Bible. I think both of those have kind of upped the amount of books for those programs. And it's working so far. It's not a big complaint because some of the books that I feel like were added, I really like. So for history, for HBL-C, we are picking back up where we left off from HBL-B in world history, kind of after the fall of Rome, and it's starting with Vikings. You guys, this has been the best. I think there's just something about the fact that like every aspect of our curriculum was bringing in Vikings and really in a way that helped it just come to life. So this book came back from HBL-B, and we're in the section with the Vikings where we follow kind of a Viking family as they go about their day and how do they live and all these things. It's told in a more story format. It is still one of my kids' favorite books. So the Time Traveler book, we have been reading through the Viking section. That's been great. In addition, one of the read alouds we're reading for this program involves Denmark So it's not a Viking story. This is called The Story of Denmark Sticks Across the Chimney. It's by Nora Berglund. So what this is about is it's about these kids. I feel like it's like turn of the century Denmark, and we're kind of following their lives. They live on this farm that is right by this Viking grave mound. So those big mounds where they would like bury their kings and various people in the boats, which we're learning about in this book. And so they live right by one of those mounds, and some things are going on. We're really enjoying it so far. It has like some mystery elements, but otherwise I feel like there's been some good discussion and some good kind of character development in the kids, and kind of we could talk about what's going on. So this has been a great story. So this is set not in the Viking times, but they refer to the Vikings often in this book, mostly because of that grave mound. The other thing, my son is reading this book. So this is Viking Adventures by Clyde Robert Beulah. This is his reader, as where this was a family read aloud. This is his reader, and it's been so good. So this year I have been trying to read ahead on his books. So my daughter is reading some of the books that my son read last year. She's also doing level 3 language arts readers. But my son has started reading these more independently. Like I give it to him and then we talk about it. And I felt like the questions that come with the readers were good. Like I was able to assess that he was getting what was going on. But with just the questions, I didn't know what was going on. And I was a little confused. So what I did is I sat down and I read to kind of where he was, which was like 2/3 of the way through the book. And it took me like 15 minutes. So I read up to where he was, and then I just put a little mark on my weekly to-do list to read his reader. And it takes me a couple minutes to read the chapters that he's going to be reading that week. So when he finishes reading, then I can talk about it with him with a little bit more depth of understanding. But this book has just really brought the Vikings alive. It's following this boy as he joins this ship to look for the new world. They call it Wineland. It's like this legend. It's a myth. The people during this time didn't believe it was true, and it goes from there, and it's really good. It really helps it come alive. So a combination of these 3 things has been amazing, but then I, in my search for more fun things, also found this documentary series. It was like Vikings for kids. So I knew it was like appropriate and we wouldn't have any kind of goriness because I mean it is the Vikings. So it was for kids and it's like a 5-part series. So we've been reading and watching a little video, and she's just a really cute teacher, and I'll link the video series below if anybody's interested in it. We're even kind of bringing in some extra books. Like I went to my computer and I have Build Your Library that I had from previous years. I like their book list. I like her book list and I like supporting Emily Cook. So I was able to pull the book that she used during kind of the Viking section of, I think, her level 2 or what it was. And I got it from the library and I got the audiobook. So my son's going to listen to it. We're going to potentially read it out loud. So it's just kind of like allowing us to follow this little bit of a rabbit trail that my kids are super psyched about. Okay, I don't want this to be too long. But then the history for my twins, the boys, they are doing HBL-K. So history for them is kind of a world cultures. So it honestly is taking this kind of real big breadth of history. It's starting with cavemen and it's working its way through. So it's just kind of touching on everything. And it's totally appropriate. It's not very long. Like for instance, this is pretty much the main spine for their history, and it's been great. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like loving it or getting tons out of it, but it's just giving them a little sprinkle of history, which is good, and they are 5, so that's pretty much all they can handle. But there has been this book. So we read this A to Z Mysteries, The Missing Mummy. They loved this. This was history to them. They're like, let's read the mummy book. And so we were able to read this. We did a hands-on history craft, which I think I might have some pictures of it, which they were able to build like an ancient artifact from Egypt. And it was really fun. So this was their highlight. And I love them. This was such a fun book. So anyway, they're getting into it. It's very minimal. It's very age appropriate. But then you get to Bible. So I made the decision to just do the Bible from HBL-C, because I didn't want to do both Bibles, because we do Bible over breakfast and there is a lot of reading for the Bible for HBL-C. I have some parent reading, which tends to be about like 20 to 40 verses long. And then the kids have a reading from their Bible, which there was an early reader Bible that came with the program, but we had just picked up special ones for them. So we just used their pink and blue Bibles. And I have them kind of tag team it, because my son is definitely more capable of reading it. My daughter stumbles a bit more, so I just help her and then I read parts of it so we're not at it all day. And it also helps them understand it a little bit more if they're not just decoding it. And so it's been good, but it still takes a bit of time. And then there is the book that I'm really liking. It's like the new apologetics book that Sonlight added to HBL-C, which is called, I think, 30 Conversations Every Kid Should Have About Jesus. It's been really good. So it just asks questions like, chapter 2 was like, is Jesus the Messiah? And then we got to kind of go down the rabbit trail of like, what does the word Messiah mean? What were the people at that time expecting? And how is that different from the Messiah Jesus actually was? So we got to have like really good conversations about that. So I'm really enjoying kind of the difference in all of that we're able to, one, read God's word a lot, which I love, but also have a good conversational book to really take on to that. And then we do have memory work. Oh my gosh, I feel like I struggle with memory work. I love it, and then I don't. What I struggle with is I feel like I'm really bad at reviewing it. Like my kids just brain dump it after a while. Like they do a decent job of memorizing it. In the week we are memorizing whatever verse it is. Like currently we're doing the Our Father, which I love, and I really want them to have that. And so we're spending more time on that. But I also feel like they have forgotten the verse from the very first week already. I do have a memory verse box that I'm setting up. I'm still in the process of setting it up, and I think that could really help us out. But I also want to see if they remember anything we memorized last year. I don't know, you guys. I'm struggling with that. So that's what we're doing for Bible, and I'm not doing Bible from HBL-K. And I'm not sure how I feel about that because I feel like the twins are not getting anything from what we're reading, and I'm not having conversations with them about like who's the Messiah and things like that. So I'm not sure if I should bring in their small little Bible storybook reader or not. I don't know. I feel like we're pretty maxed. But anyway, that's something that's kind of I'm thinking about. So then it gets to the literature, and the literature's been amazing. Sonlight style, amazing. So for HBL-C, we have read these two, or we read this one, Red Sails to Capri, and then we are in the middle of, well, almost done with the Sticks Across the Chimney. So these two books. This was really fun. I feel like I heard so many people complain about this book. I think it was really funny. I liked the story of the main character, Michel, and his family who lives on Capri, and they run a B&B type inn, and then there's these foreign travelers that come, and they're able to kind of stay at the inn, and then they ask questions about Capri. And there's like a little mystery, and the mother is so fun. She just says some funny things that have become like jokes in our house. Like she talks to her food when she's cooking. Like she talks about the noodles are jealous. The noodles are jealous. And so it was like we made up fun voices, and now we talk about our food like that, and it's just fun. So anyway, those have been HBL-C, and so far, so good. I feel like I never would have picked up those books, but they really have added to the learning, and I like that. And so the other book that I read with the big kids that was a read aloud was Otter by Catherine Applegate. We got it from the library, so I don't have it to show you. It was the first DART for Brave Writer this year, and I'll get into that when I talk more about language arts. But I did want to mention that we read it. It was really good, and it's a verse novel loosely based off a true story of this otter that was rescued at the Monterey Bay, I forget, aquarium, whatever it's called, and it's a sweet story. But I really wanted to include this in our studies because it's a verse novel, like I said, and that was just fun and different. And it's just fun to show them a different element of writing and how authors can tell a story in a different way. So we loved this book. I loved it. My daughter listened to the audio copy of it like 10 times. She loved it so much. So that has been a really good read aloud as well. And the other two books to show you for my big kids is we finally finished Harry Potter that we started this summer. It's Harry Potter 4, and it's the illustrated edition. It's our tradition to read them in the summer, but this one got a little scary, and I had to do a bit of editing as I went. I would just more explain what was happening. And if you've read Harry Potter, you know kind of how the fourth book ends. And so I did a lot of that, which helped them out. But they both agreed that we're not sure if we're ready to go on to number 5 next year. I just have a little bit more sensitive kids, and I want to honor that. So we read that, and then we finally finished this. City of Ember, the first book by Jean Deprue. This is such a good book. This is such a good book. I mean, we started this before we started Harry Potter, and then we put it on hold for Harry Potter, and then we finished it. And there was actually a movie that my son found at the library that they were able to watch, and they loved it. And so now he wants the second book, and he even says he wants to read it himself. You guys, I know you homeschool mamas would celebrate that with me, because this was a read aloud. But he loves it so much, he's even saying he doesn't want to listen to it on audio. Right now he's listening to the Green Ember series on audio and loving it. But he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do it on audio. I think I want to read it. And so I'm going to get it for him because he wants to read it himself with his eyeballs instead of his ears, which I love. So those are the read alouds that my big kids have done. And then the read alouds for my twins, including this one, which I already showed you, that was for history. My gosh, these two are just eating up the books. So we read both of the Treasure Dolphin Adventure books. These are great. This is where Sonlight HBL-K started. They're very short. They're also true story, but it involves dolphins, and they loved them. And then we also read this book, The Heartwood Hotel. So this was part of the program, the HBL-K program. It was the second book of the year. It is a favorite of mine. I remember when I read this with the big kids for our Sonlight program, and we loved it. And then we picked up the second two. Actually, I'd have the fourth one in my Amazon cart currently because they're based on seasons. And this first book is fall, like the Acorn Festival. If you've read it, you know. And then it goes on to winter, and then it goes on to spring. So they read the winter one with their dad because basically what happened is we finished the first one, and then they wanted to read more. They wanted more Mona Mouse, right? And so I'm like, well, I have more. And my husband is in charge of putting them to bed, and I read to the big kids. So they just wanted more Mona Mouse. So he's been reading Heartwood Hotel to my twins at night. So they read Heartwood Hotel, The Greatest Gift, which was the winter one. They finished that, and they just started this one, Heartwood Hotel Better Together, which is springtime. And by the time they finish this, I think I'm just going to pick up the other one because these are such sweet books, and they've been loving it. So that's been some of their read alouds plus their extras. And then what do I have left? I have this one. We just started Humphrey, The World According to Humphrey. And then we looked up all about hamsters and hamster cages, and they just really enjoyed it. They were having so much fun, and they really want a hamster, which happened to my big kids when we read this book. It's so sweet. It's just about this hamster in this school classroom, and the story is told from the hamster's point of view. And he's just funny. He's a funny little hamster. And there's more books, which I think I pointed out when I was talking about this with my big kids. They went on to listen to a lot of those audiobooks, and so I think the twins will as well because they've started listening to tons of audiobooks at 5 years old. It's just what we do. We listen to audiobooks in this family, but that is their current read aloud for HBL-K. So I just counted 12 books that we have done as read alouds in the past 5 weeks. Granted, Harry Potter we finished, and City of Ember we finished, so maybe I can't totally count those, but we have read so many books, and it's been so fun. So that was the lit. Now to go into science. So like I said, we're doing Sonlight Science C as well as Sonlight Science K. Both have been really good. So Science C started with just a real broad, basic intro to science, and then we did a quick book on fossils. And then we actually just did an experiment, like cast fossils as well as trace fossils, and they made these little fossils, and it was really easy. It was a very straightforward experiment, but my daughter, after she actually pulled out the fossil that was like a seashell, like her mind was blown. She's like, it's exactly like the original. She's like, science is awesome. It was so cute. And she already really likes science, and so just to have that response from her from an experiment was really cute. And then we've been also doing this book, which has a bit different, but I've been loving it. So this is a popular homeschool book. I feel like a lot of people have it. It's Bringing Back the Wolves, How a Predator Restored an Ecosystem. First off, what's really cool about this, which I told them at the beginning, is this is about Yellowstone. I grew up in Montana. I grew up during the time when they were deciding if they wanted to reintroduce wolves into Yellowstone. I remember writing a report about it in middle school. And so it's just kind of like, I remember this time, and then it goes through this in a lot of detail about really food webs and how these animals and plants and just this ecosystem, it's all interconnected. And when one thing changes, like the wolves, and when the wolves were brought back, how that changed all the different populations and species, and how some declined, how some increased. And it has been fascinating, and my kids have really liked it. And it's told in a bit more of like a story format, and that's just been a fun way to read it. And then the pictures are just stunning. They're so pretty, and it's just been really fun. It's been a good book. We're not quite done with it, but I feel like the discussion has been really good. My son has liked it more because he doesn't love science as much as my daughter does, and so he's been getting into it. And we've been using the worksheets from Sonlight, and I've actually tried to have them do them a little bit themselves. Not totally. Usually we work on them together, but I'm trying to kind of like test it out, see how they're doing. Like, can they, one, read the question and understand what the question is asking for and be able to put an answer down? And some of them are like long form where they have to write it out. And again, I always tell them I don't care about spelling. That's a rule in this house. I don't care about spelling. I care about what they learned and their thoughts. And so I can usually kind of read what they wrote, but it's been good. And then science for the boys have just been these little books, like the little reptile book and the little ant book. And they're just like the perfect amount of information. They're the little Usborne books. And then the experiments have tied in really well with these. And we do use the Science K videos from Sonlight. It's been key. They love the guy. The experiments are super simple. So we watch it a little bit, we pause it, we do ourselves, we unpause it, we finish watching it, and it takes all of 15 minutes. It's never that long. And so they really enjoy it. So we've done all of the experiments so far. And as for the big kids, we've done 4 out of 5, which has been awesome. I feel like experiments are hard to do, but again, like, experiments make my daughter run around the house being like, science is awesome. So I need to prioritize them. And that was kind of a goal of mine for this year, was to prioritize fun. And for my kids, science experiments are fun. So that's a little recap of all of our family subjects. I know that's a lot, and I realized that this year my update videos just might be longer because my twins are doing more work. So hopefully you guys still like these. Let me know down below if these are getting too long and you don't want this much detail. But otherwise, I'm just going to chat through how the month went. So now to move on to my individual kids. Like I said, I have a 4th grader, 3rd grader, and 2 kindergartners. I think I'm just going to talk about my 4th grader and 3rd grader a little bit together because they use a lot of the same curriculum. So you'll see. And this is the section where I'm also going to talk a little bit more about language arts. So I would say this area, individual subjects, language arts, is kind of the place I'm the most uncertain going into our school year. But I also planned it that way. Like, I'm trying to feel some stuff out. Like, I'm almost giving it to myself a little stepwise to see how it works. Do I want to do that? Do I want to pick this up? Do I want to combine this? Do I want to take this from this program? All the things. I'm trying to kind of feel it out. Where in the past, I would just like jump in and then have to like totally switch. This time I'm just kind of like baby stepping into it. You'll see. So to start with, for my 4th grader and 3rd grader, math. Math is going well. So I just made a video about online platforms for Saxon math. So go check it out if you want to hear more of this process where I compared 3 different programs. I landed on Nicole the Math Lady for a variety of reasons, but go check out that video if you just want more details. And it's been great. They've both really enjoyed it. I love that she included Math 3 as one of the textbooks that she supports on the platform, because that's where my daughter is. She's in Saxon Math 3 and my son is in Saxon 5-4. Now, they're different programs. Math 3 is very much teacher intensive still. Like, I did the whole program with my son last year. It's very teacher intensive. Math 5-4 is when the kids start to take it a bit more themselves anyway, regardless of an online platform. So they're different, and they're different even on the computer. But as for my daughter with the Math 3, like I said, it's more teacher intensive. So it took me a little bit to figure this out, but what I have to do with her is I have to do the morning meeting first. So before she gets on the computer, we do the calendar, we do her coin cup, we do the counting, the skip counting, we do like the clock and the pattern problem, all the things we do before she gets on the computer. And then she starts with her videos, and then there's still flashcards with Math 3. And so I have to look at my teacher's manual and kind of pull out the right flashcards so that she can practice the flashcards, then do her fact sheet, and then she can do her worksheet side A on the computer, or she puts her answers in the computer. And so far it's working. It took me a while to find my footing with her because you can't just give it to her. It's not all on the computer, if that makes sense. But it's fine. It works out. So we are really liking math. And now to get into language arts. Language arts is a bit of a trickier part, but let's just go through some not tricky aspects. Logic of English essentials. So I started using that with my son last year at the tail end of his 3rd grade year. We are just picking back up where we left off. I think we're on like unit 6. He's still in level A. And then with my daughter, I started her in essentials. And we had to do some of the pre-lessons because she was less familiar with how Logic of English teaches its phonograms, as where my son kind of remembered it from when we did foundations like 4 years ago. So we had to do some of that pre-practice to get her used to how Logic of English teaches phonograms and things like that. But she picked right up on it, and we're now in I think we're in lesson 2 with her and lesson 8 with my son or something like that. And last year she had finished up the Abeka grade 1. And so the transition from there into essentials level A has been just fine for her. And so they're both just kind of slowly gaining those skills. I really like how Logic of English teaches, especially how it teaches its rules-based, and you're just kind of building and practicing and reviewing and building and practicing and reviewing. And it's working really well for both of my kiddos as of right now. So far, so good. And then the other language arts things that we're doing that are working just fine are handwriting, typing, and the reading comprehension sheets from Abeka. So those are the other things they have going on, and they're just fine. So let's get into the aspect of language arts that is the most up in the air, but not in a bad way. I want to start with that. It's not in a bad way. I'm just trying to figure out what would work best for us. So that aspect is really the creative expression, the writing aspect of their language arts, because Logic of English covers spelling, grammar, vocabulary, and then they have all the handwriting and stuff covered. So this is mostly like creative expression or writing. And so I've been drawn to Brave Writer for a long time, but mostly for the writing. And I think what has happened in the past is I have gotten bogged down by the whole program, and I felt like, well, I couldn't do all of that. Like, for instance, they have all the like darts, which are their like mechanics practice. That's where you are reading a book like Otter, for instance, which is what we read for August, the August dart. And that's where you practice a lot of the grammar and the punctuation, and you do all the copy work and reverse dictation and all these things. And I was like, well, I can't possibly read another book. We already read so many books. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I can, to at least get my feet wet and to just feel it out. See if it's even something I like, right? I've just assumed it was too much. But to get back to what I was saying, stay on target, is I was most attracted to her just general approach to teaching writing, to allowing the child to pull out their inner voice, to really hear from them and just build them up in this way, to not bog them down with like formats and formulas for how to set up a paragraph and all that stuff, to be able to just hear from them and not focus so much on writing and grammar and all those things. And so I bought Growing Brave Writers, and I wanted access to the Brave Learner Home platform, and so I picked up the year-long dart. Am I going to use them all? Probably not. But I really just kind of wanted to immerse myself in it, and I wanted to start trying some things out. So like I said, in August we read Otter, and we started the dart. We didn't do anything else. I didn't do anything out of here, which actually has activities and ways for teaching writing, and I didn't do any of the writing projects. I just wanted to start the process. And what did I think of the dart? I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was trying to view the mechanics aspects. So like, say for instance, when they're trying to teach about alliterations or teach about commas or teach about contractions, whatever it is, I like how playful it teaches it. I like that she uses fun ways of teaching these things. And I wanted that. Like I said, I'm trying to focus more on fun. So currently I'm thinking I would use the darts and the mechanics as a supplement to Logic of English, which is kind of building that foundation, but it's adding some things and it's making it fun. So say we learned about contractions in Logic of English, and that's been good, and we're practicing it and they're getting it, but then we throw in a lesson from a dart, and it's just more fun. and then they can kind of get both. And it's just a way to reiterate what they're learning. So that's how I'm treating the darts. Now, when it comes to writing, this is where I'm a little bit less sure of what I'm going to do, because I do really like the Sonlight Language Arts program for creative expression. So I even started there this year, and I filmed a day in the life of us using Sonlight Language Arts. And it was really good. A couple things kind of fell out of that for me personally. One, my 8-year-old. She's a young third grader. She just turned 8 this summer. I think she's just too young for writing. And if you are reading any of the Brave Writer material, there is stages of growth in writing, and she describes it as like when they start to take the pencil and start to kind of do it a little bit more themselves, and even if they're not doing it well or spelling anything right, that's kind of the stage where they enter into that second part, which is like partnership writing, which is what Brave Writer calls it. But prior to that, you do a lot of transcribing for them. So when I was thinking about my daughter is still, I think, in that jot it down phase. Even though she's an early 8-year-old, she's just not confident in that. She doesn't want to take the pencil. She kind of breaks down. She kind of shuts down when you're like trying to ask her to do some of those things, especially when we were trying to pick up the diamond notes through Sonlight. We tried a little bit more, and it was frustrating her. Like the idea of her taking those ideas from the diamond and making them into a sentence, and then putting those 3 sentences into a paragraph. It was too much. I could do it with her with a lot of transcribing. And I realized that maybe this tool that I like, and I liked for my son, she's just not ready for it yet. So that kind of put me in this like, all right, well then what do I do for her? Well, first off, the Sonlight Language Arts, the readers are fantastic. We're using level 3. She's read all of these, or she's currently reading this, but she's read these 5 books. Keep the Light Burning Abbey, Prairie School, and then these 2 books, A Long Way Westward and A Long Way to a New Land. So she has read these 4 books, and she's in the middle of this one. And she has just really grown in her reading. Even in this past 5 weeks, she has grown. We sit and I read it with her. She reads it out loud because she still stumbles and she still likes to skip words and go too fast and all the things. So I still read it with her, but it's even improved her reading outside of school reading. Like she has her own personal readers, which I think I'll plan a video for the things she reads at night to herself. Working with me and these Sonlight readers has improved that reading. So as for Sonlight Language Arts, I'm keeping the readers. I feel like I need to step back from Diamond Notes and come back to it. That's just where I'm at. And so that just started me thinking kind of a little bit more of the Brave Writer direction. But there's some things about Brave Writer I don't love that I like more about Sonlight. So let me get into Brave Writer for a second. So what I like about this is the how to teach writing. This is not writing projects. This is not, think of a descriptive paragraph of a place you visited this summer. There's no prompts involved in this. This is more how to write. And it takes you through stepwise, and it's based on like age and writing development as to how far they can even go in this book. Like I think my son is ready for first couple projects plus like the free writing, which is really what I want for him. And so my plan is to use this for a bit with him before I hop into any projects, whether it be a Brave Writer writing project, which I did pick up partnership writing and I'm looking through it, whether we pick up one of those projects or whether we pick up one of the weekly prompts from the Sonlight Language Arts. I kind of have both options, but I want to start with this because I feel like this is the basis to support him in being able to do those projects really well. And so honestly, I feel like it's kind of be a bit of all of that with my son. Is we might work with the Growing Brave Writers for a while and then kind of flip-flop between the options I have for him, because my first impression of the writing projects from Brave Writer is they're good, and I feel like they're really good practice and they're really fun, but it just, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want to say they're not enough because that seems not correct, but I'm not sure. I also do like some of the structure that Sonlight gives. And so it kind of makes me want to keep both around and kind of mishmash it in my own way. So that's where I'm at. And so like I said, August we started with just the dart. and no writing. After using the language arts from Sonlight a little bit and realized my daughter wasn't ready and my son was a little bit like, I don't really want to do this quite yet, I just stepped back from that and we just did the dart. And so next month my plan is to pick up another dart, which I have the Heartwood Hotel dart. It's not this year's September book, but it was a previous year's, and we have read it. Obviously, I just read it out loud to my twins, and so my big kids have recently heard the story. And I picked that book because I didn't want an extra read aloud on the month where I'm going to start bringing in a little bit of the writing. Like, I think I'm going to start with Growing Brave Writers for my son. Check back in September to see how the writing kind of took off, because that's what I want to bring in this month, is to start a little bit of the writing projects as I continue the dart, but a dart that is very straightforward because we have already read the book. So it's not like something we're worried about. We can fit that in wherever. So that's kind of what my plan is going forward. And as I get a little bit more into the Brave Writer writing, I will bring back in some of the Sonlight stuff if I feel like it will help my kids, or even to just shake things up and have them approach an assignment or a prompt a little differently. I will bring in the Sonlight Language Arts. And so for both of my kids in Sonlight Language Arts, we're using the readers. I showed you my daughters, and I just showed you this in the history section. So my son just finished this like yesterday. And this was his first book. This took that long for him to read it. And so the next book that's in the schedule for him is, I didn't bring it over, but it's this book. And I think he'd be fine. I don't have a problem with him reading really girly books, but he has expressed a real interest in King Arthur and the Round Table. And like I said, we're doing Vikings, and next we're going to do kings and castles in medieval time. And my daughter actually at our enrichment school, which I made a video about recently, my son is doing technical theater and my daughter is doing musical theater at their enrichment school. And the play for this year is King Arthur and the Rad Tables, but it's a play on the King Arthur story. And so he's really interested in it. And we don't have any readers or read alouds that have to do with King Arthur. And so I picked up a book. I didn't bring it over here, but I picked up a book, and this is what I think I'm going to sub in for him for a reader. It's about the same length as the other reader that was assigned for Sonlight, but he's highly interested in this, and so we're going to go there next. So I'll let you know how that went next month, but he's really excited about that. But otherwise, we love the Sonlight readers. So, my gosh, I talked a lot about this section, but I still need to talk about my kindergartners. Sorry, you guys, this is going a little long, but my kindergartners, they are so fun and they are so ready. So we did Abeka K4 last year. We were working with the phonograms, or working with the flashcards and the ladders and all the things, and they would come and go with interest in that. And this year, though, they're just a little bit better at it. They're more ready, they're more interested, they really enjoy their own binders. So I always make my kids a working binder full of their worksheets for the month, or however I set it up, is I have all their work in the binder. And my boys love having their own little binders and their own worksheets for phonics and math, and then like thinking skills and handwriting. It's all in there, and they just love it. And so it's been going really well. I think what's funny is that they kind of cheatsy a little bit off of each other. So if I'm having them sit side by side at the table, which is actually our dining room table, tends to be where I teach kindergarten, because at that same time, my big kids in the schoolroom are doing Nicole the math lady and their math and everything. So we do kindergarten over here. But it's really funny because when they start doing their worksheet, if it's like a phonics worksheet and they have to kind of say the picture and figure out what the beginning sound is or whatever it is, they'll do it, but then their little eyes will look and confirm that their brother has the same thing. Or they'll look and see that their brother wrote something and they'll just copy it, right? Super funny. And I kind of expect that. But we talk about the fact that we want to be able to think about it ourselves, and I'm curious what each of you think. And so I make one sit on the floor. It sounds bad, but he just sits right by my feet, and the other one stays on the table. And so they can't see each other, but I can see both of them, and they're fine with that. And then they can work it out more independently. And then I know if one of them is struggling to hear like the E sound or something that is kind of hard at this age. And so they really like that. They're really loving kindergarten and all the fun things and fun games that come with Abeka K5. And so it's been good. And I would say it's really pretty quick too. So that kindergarten time frame we're doing phonics, math, the thinking skills. We're not doing handwriting. We do that all as a group a little later, but we do those 3 things, and then I read the read aloud for HBL-K at that point. But I would say that all of that takes like 30 minutes for math and everything, and then maybe 10 minutes for the read aloud. It's really not that long. So I just feel like they are not doing that much work, but it's good. It's engaging and they're learning and they love being a part of school. So it's been really fun. So anyway, you guys, I realize that's a lot to get through. We do a lot of things and I wanted to share them all with you. And so I hope these videos, these update videos are helpful. It's helpful to see kind of where I'm at, what I'm thinking and processing through. And so let me know how you guys are starting off your year. Have you started? I know we started earlier than some people, but let me know how it's going. I love hearing from you guys. And so I hope this was fun to watch and not too long. Let me know if it's too long. I'll try to shorten it, but you guys, I'm already trying to talk fast. We'll see. Anyway, if you liked it, thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, please do. And otherwise, I will see you in the next homeschool video. All right, guys, take care.